Today we're going to make jambalaya. I love this recipe. My family loves the recipe. Here are all the ingredients. Let's get into it right now. I always like to show all the ingredients here. I do this for you. This is all about you who are making this, but this is gonna help any cook to do a mise en place. That's how you do it. You just set up all of your ingredients prepped. It will make it easier when you're following a recipe. All right, so I'm gonna just show you the ingredients from left to right. Right here, I have Cajun spice that I made myself. It has less sodium than a lot of other brands. These other brands are Tony Chachirs and Slap Your Mama. One's a Cajun spice, one's a Creole. To my taste buds, they kind of taste similar. Creole is supposedly not as spicy, but either one is fine, or you could use my own homemade, which I will link. We also have 1.5 cups of white rice. This is long grain white rice. For my research, I always like to research these things because this food is not typical here in Long Island. So I like to do my research. It said that you can use whatever rice you want, but it would be normally long grain white rice. That would be more traditional. I also have 2 bay leaves. I have 1 teaspoon of oregano. I have about 6 or 8 cloves of garlic minced. Use whatever you like. I have 2.5 cups of low sodium chicken stock. I'm using Better Than Bouillon chicken base. I have 14 ounces of tomato sauce. You can use crushed tomatoes too if you like. This is green onion and parsley. Those are kind of to finish it up. You can use one or both or neither. If you don't have them, it's okay. It's more for garnish. We have the Trinity here. The Trinity for this type of food is celery, onions, and bell pepper. I used 1 large, just 1 standard green bell pepper that I diced, 2 celery ribs that I diced, and 1 medium onion that I diced. I have 12 ounces of andouille sausage. This dish always has andouille sausage. If for some reason you can't get andouille sausage, and I read this on a lot of forums that were for Cajun Creole cooking, they said you can use hot dogs or kielbasa. So I guess you could, but this was relatively easy for us to find. Most stores around here in New York, which is again far from Louisiana, they have it. So I think you should be able to find it. Tara, do you know what brand it is that we use?
This one is North Country Smokehouse, but we've also used Idol's brand. And if you can't, this andouille is made with pork. So if you can't have pork, there are a lot of different brands that make chicken andouille, which are actually really good too. It's hard for me to tell the difference.
Okay. We also have 1 pound, I'm using a little bit more because the pack just had 1.25 pound or more chicken thighs. Traditionally, this recipe always has chicken breasts, white meat chicken breasts. I want chicken thighs. I think they're more flavorful, they're juicy, they're more forgiving. They just taste better. They're better. We have 1/2 pound of shrimp. These are just peeled, deveined U26. That's pretty much all of the ingredients. I'm probably missing some oil and a couple other things. So I have 12 ounces of the andouille. It smells amazing. I really, really like this stuff. You could do it on a bias, or you could just do pieces like this. This stuff is already cooked, so that's what the package says. Some I assume aren't, but so I'm just cutting it into about 1/4 inch slices, or for you Europeans, about 7 millimeters, give or take. And you know, if you don't want to do this, discs, you can like chop it, make it in smaller pieces if you desire. Okay, like so. I have my chicken thighs here. These are boneless, skinless. You can trim these if you desire. They're pretty good. You know, there's not much fat here. You need a lot of fat in this dish to help prevent the rice from sticking, but the rice kind of always sticks no matter how good you are, I feel. I'm gonna cut these up into pieces about that big. I mean, you can do smaller if you like too, but I think like that's good. So basically each thigh is getting cut into about 4 or 5 pieces. You dry these off a little bit more. I already did with paper towels. Dry them off more, and then we'll put on our spice. I did an initial cleanup of these thighs before, and there were 2 thighs that had bone fragment in them. Now, I've been cooking for a long time. I just feel like I'm running into issues now that I've never ran into before. You know, listen, if you haven't listened to the podcast, I recommend you do. We might do a whole episode on what's going on with the food. In my opinion, everything's getting worse, kind of everywhere. So I'm gonna use 1 tablespoon here of this seasoning. So that much, you can see it. Just gonna get it on top. I might break out the bro gloves for this because this has cayenne in it, and I don't know if I wanna be rubbing this with my fingers. All right, I'm just gonna flip this over. By the way, the other stuff that I said before are these 2. Slap Your Mama, Cajun seasoning, and then Tony Chachirs. I know I'm not saying that right, Creole seasoning. They're both similar. A serving size of this Tony Chachirs is 1/4 teaspoon. Sodium is 340 milligrams. That's 15% of your daily intake. I'm using a tablespoon of this. That's 12 times that, okay? So 12 times 340, we're at about 4,000 milligrams, but I'm still gonna be using more later. So if you do end up using one of these, you're not gonna probably need any extra salt, and your dish might still be a little on the salty side. That's why I like to make my own spice. So that's 1 tablespoon on supposed to be 1 pound of chicken. We have a little bit more here. Is this a 5, maybe a 6 quart? It might be a 6. I think it's gonna fit. I did it in an 8 quart last time, but we're making 2 videos today, and the 8 quart is presently in use for a Guinness beef stew that is in the oven right now. Turn the heat on this pot to medium heat. Let it heat up for a couple minutes. I'm putting in a couple tablespoons of olive oil. I would assume traditionally you're probably gonna use vegetable oil instead of olive oil, but I'm using olive oil. You don't need a crazy amount, just enough to coat the whole bottom. Let it get a little hot, a little shimmery. So you're probably gonna have to work in batches. I will, because I have more than a pound of chicken here. I'm just trying to separate them so they can get even coverage on the bottom of the pot. And then once you do that, just leave it alone, okay? A couple minutes per side until we get some color. Okay, so I have medium heat. It's only been about 2 minutes. All right, let's see how we look here. So as I said, just leave it alone. And there, that's what we want. Nice, beautiful color, okay? Just flip everything over. Your center of your pot is gonna be where the best color is. But even the sides there are looking really good. Just get contact again on the bottom and just leave it alone. 2 more minutes, then we will do the other batch. Man, it smells good in here, and it goes right up your nose, that Cajun spice. All right, I'm removing the chicken. Beautiful chicken. Look at that color. Look at that. Try to leave all the fat in here because you're gonna sear up the next batch. Okay, so I let these go for a couple minutes on each side as well. I'm gonna get them out of here. Now remember, this chicken's not cooked all the way through. It's got a nice sear on the outside, but it's gonna be a little raw on the inside still. That doesn't matter because we're gonna be cooking this with the rice later on. Andouille, put it all in. Try to get a little bit of coating, even coating on there. Pan's getting a little dark here, so I probably will deglaze right away after that, so we don't burn anything. You can adjust your heat a little bit down if you need to. Just want to get some color on this. You know, you could use one of these things to not make a mess. You know, not perfect amount of color on here. There's a lot of andouille because I sliced them very thin, but you know, it's an improvement. And that's kind of what we're looking for. I'm gonna take this off, use a slotted spoon, something that's not gonna damage your brand new pot, so you can leave the liquid, meaning the fat, in here, because we want that fat to cook our vegetables. This is very dark here, but it's not burnt, all right? We don't want it to burn, so you can deglaze with a tiny bit of water, okay? And now all that's happening is you're removing the bottom, you know, all the brown bits on the bottom here without burning everything. If I kept going on my next saute and everything, it would risk potentially that happening. I don't want to lose this flavor though. So that's why I want to do it when it's at that brown stage. So if it was at the black stage, I might have to abandon ship. You know, clean my pot or use another pot. All right, so there's liquid in there. And don't worry, this is going to evaporate quick. Put all your vegetables in. Now my pot is clear again. Okay, completely clear. You see that? But don't worry, we didn't lose any of the flavor. It's all here. It's going into the vegetables right now. You can cook these vegetables on medium heat, pinch of salt, okay? Now we want to cook these vegetables till they're very soft and like really flavorful. Once you put these onion, celery, and pepper in your food, it just immediately, to me anyway, my nostrils, I'm just transported. I'm like transported to Louisiana. This is like that unique flavor that just smells so good. But just give it time here, okay? I don't care if it takes 15 minutes to do these vegetables. We want to get them nice and soft. So it's probably been about 12 minutes, maybe 13. Put our garlic in. Okay, just cook it in here for about a minute until it gets fragrant. Okay, remember, if it starts burning at all, bottom of your pot again, see it's a little dark over here. It's actually over here, so you might not be able to see it. Just a touch of water. gonna put a little bit more oil in the bottom of my pot, a couple more tablespoons. If you have a lot of oil there, you don't need to do it. I'm gonna put the rice in. Just wanna cook the rice for a minute, get them coated in all the oil. Now I'm pretty much gonna add everything else into the pot here. I really wanna make sure that I don't have any sticking down here at the bottom, but you know, in my experience, it always sticks when you do this. All right, there's the chicken, and I really hope we can fit everything in here. Sausage, all the fat in there. Here is 2.5 cups of low sodium chicken base, which always tends to stick at the bottom of there, so make sure that's out of there. That's where all the flavor is. After you do this, you reach this point, it's just throwing everything in the pot. Okay, there's the oregano, that's 1 teaspoon, 2 large bay leaves. Here is 14 ounces of tomato sauce. So basically rice is normally, like the long grain rice would be a 2-to-1 ratio of liquid to the rice. So we did 1.5 cups of the rice. So we have 2.5 cups of the stock and 14 ounces of the tomato. We're a little bit over that. I really want to make sure right now that nothing is sticking down there. Now also, I'm using my homemade Cajun spice, so it's much lower in salt. So I'm gonna do about 1/2 teaspoon, maybe a little bit more. If you're using one of those other brands I showed you before, your problem is gonna be that it's gonna be too salty. So do not add any extra salt. All right, let's turn this up and bring it to a boil. When you make this dish, famous dish, it's almost always cooked in a pot on the stovetop. But if you put it in the oven, about 300 degrees, I would say, maybe 325, probably have less sticking, but you're gonna have to take it out of the oven and then check your rice as you're doing it. That is an alternative way. I actually put it in the notes of the recipe. I read on a bunch of these sites, you know, sites that have like traditional experts. They're like, the rice burning on the bottom is actually part of the traditional way to do it. So a lot of times what that'll happen is after maybe you do like 1 stir, I'm gonna recommend 2 stirs. Whatever's burnt at the bottom, stuck, you just empty your pot at the end and you kind of leave that there so you don't get any of that. So right now I'm already feeling it sticking. So what I'm going to do is, before it comes to a boil, I'm going to be using my wooden spoon to make sure that it isn't sticking, at least for now. You know, the more you stir it, the more you're going to release the starch of the rice and potentially break it, but there is a need to do it. It's boiling now. There's a little bit of bubbles. Turn it off. Okay, I'm checking again the bottom here. Good, there's nothing sticking right now. Put the heat on its lowest level and then cover it with the lid. Spend about 8 minutes, take the lid off, okay? Then come in here and then just a little bit of pulling, and I'm good right now, all right? I can feel it. There's nothing, that's all I'm gonna do. I'm not doing any more stirring than that. Okay, let's get the lid back on. That's our first check. We will do one more check. My heat is really low, so we should probably be pretty good here. It's gonna take, again, about 25-30 minutes. So I have my rice going. It's doing well, which is really good. And I have my shrimp here. Probably could have used a few more shrimp than this. I think last time I had more. I'm just gonna take about 2 teaspoons of this. So I got a pan right here. I'm gonna sear these shrimp up. I'm gonna heat up the pan to medium heat, maybe a touch more than medium heat. We'll cook our shrimp. I'm putting a little bit of oil down here, just a couple tablespoons, just enough to cook them. We just want to cook these for about a minute. Traditionally, these would just be thrown into your jambalaya at the end, and the residual heat of the rice would cook your shrimp enough. I kind of like how, just to get a little bit color on them, I like it a little bit better. Yeah, so just like not even a minute, all right? You know, maybe a touch raw there, but when you throw them in the rice, they're gonna cook more. They literally cooked about 45 seconds. Let's check our rice again. 19 minutes roughly has been going. Taking that off. Now I'm stuck a good amount here, but should be all right. Just, I don't want to go crazy, okay? That's it, I'm not doing any more. I want my rice to be okay. The thing you just want to avoid is if you have too high heat, you're gonna lose your liquid completely before your rice is done. The objective is low heat, that the rice absorbs all the liquid. I just took a bite, it's done. This took 28 minutes to finish, okay? Still a little bit liquidy in there, but it's good. I don't want my rice to be mushy. I got the heat off here. I'm just gonna mix my shrimp in gently in here. I'm gonna mix a little bit of the green onion. I already tasted it, it tastes delicious. I don't even know, is green onion even traditional in this? I just like it. All right, I'm just gonna like kind of just stir that over, minimal stirring here, okay? Just like that. Again, my heat is off. I'm gonna take this off the burner. So let's sit now. Just let it sit for 5 minutes. And again, like I read, you know, you could turn this whole pot over when you're done, like in a platter or whatever. Leave the bottom browned part there if you burned it or whatnot. So this jambalaya has been sitting here for about 4 hours waiting for James to eat it. So it's better when it first comes out. Like the rice, I think, is a little bit firmer, but it's still really good because I tasted a little bit along the way. I thought that the rice could have been a few minutes less, but we're gonna see what he thinks. It doesn't really matter what I think. I had to microwave it for, 45 seconds.
Everything's really good about this. Like, the sausage is spicy. The chicken is pretty good. Shrimp is good. I like the flavors. Like, it's spicy. There's like a tiny bit of like sweetness, I would say, but like it's mainly just spicy. The green onions like complement the spiciness well.
I do like the green onions, yeah. I don't even know if that's traditional to put green onions in it.
I think it's good.
What do you think of the rice?
The rice is good. It's kind of like a pasta, but with rice.
They do make this dish with pasta. It's called pastalaya. And actually, Tara, I was doing the research about it. It's easier to not have to worry about, the rice sticking or whatnot. You put the noodles in it.
James, a lot of times people comment that Daddy leaves the tails on the shrimp. Does it bother you as someone who's eating it that the tail's on the shrimp?
No, it doesn't, because like, it's not like it's so messy where you can't even pick up the shrimp, because it's not like a thick sauce, really. It's like,
it's just not saucy, really.
Yeah, it's not saucy. Like, so, like, see, it doesn't make a mess on my hands when I pick up the shrimp. So, I don't really mind.
What does it get, James?
I think I'm gonna give it a 9.
A 9? I'll take it.
I think it would have been a 10 if, like, I ate it right when it came out.
We'll see you next time.